Everybody, just got done reading the Scarlet Letter, and I'm sitting here with my buddy Hank, enjoying the wonderful sunlight that's coming in the window here. Quite a warm day, and that's good because it's been cold in northern Illinois last couple of weeks. We even had snow in April, and I don't like to see that. That's foreboding to me of a cold summer. But anyway, the winter, it sounds like the weather's changing, and I like that. But anyway, The Scarlet Letter, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This book is considered an American classic. I've never read it before. I sort of knew what it was about, based upon, I guess, an English teacher back in high school mentioned this book. That's when I first was exposed to this novel existed. But I think there's been other allusions to it, popular culture, in different TV shows and movies and so forth. So that kind of got my interest up. So when I actually saw this, book in the secondhand store, I decided to go ahead and pick it up and buy it and read it. Now, when I was reading it, I was asking other people, had you heard about this book and have you read it? And most people said, yeah, I heard about it. No, I didn't read it. Which kind of doesn't surprise me because, we're a society now where we value TV shows and movies, which is good. I mean, it's a valid form of art. It's a valid form of communicating different stories. But at the same time, I think that loses a little bit, if you're not reading all the time. I think it's good to get into books and open them up and read them, especially if it's a difficult book like this one. I think it challenges you. It pushes you to widen your horizon and scope on the books you read. I've tried to make it a point to read a hard book or a difficult book or a non-popular book, every two or three, you know, 2 or 3 times a year. Something I normally wouldn't read just to kind of change the pace a little bit. But anyway, that's just my own stupid opinion. If you're reading, keep reading. If you're not reading, then I encourage you to start reading because it certainly will broaden your perspective on life. And I think it might even add some enjoyment to yourself personally, if you can start enjoying some of these stories that other people have written. Now, this book opens up with the Custom House. Chapter 1 is called The Custom House. This is where Nathaniel Hawthorne actually wrote himself into the novel, where he's managing this place, this custom house, where ships dock and they unload their cargo. And the custom house is where they pay their taxes. The merchants pay their taxes either to export or import, merchandise around the world. But anyway, Hawthorne describes colorfully, I might add, very, very brilliantly, the different characters and different people that he runs into. And from what I can understand, they're actually real people. Because the footnotes in this book allude to the fact that, this person lived between this and such time, and this person fought, in this battle and whatever the case might be. So I was confused. I really was. Because I was thinking I was supposed to be reading about this woman who was scorned by society. And here I'm reading about this guy that's managing this custom house. And it threw me for a loop until I got to the very end. And it turns out that while he's in the upstairs, the attic, if you will, of the custom house, he runs across, I think it's a 3-page letter about this woman who is accused of adultery, and out of this envelope falls this embroidered Scarlet Letter A, and then the book starts. So it's kind of a historical novel, if you will, and that took a little bit to adjust to. So I guess you can skip that and go right to chapter 2. I wouldn't recommend it. Again, I think the way that Hawthorne adds his perspective, his experiences at the custom house add a lot to the novel. I found myself laughing at parts of it the way he was describing some of the people. But anyway, so the story really opens up in chapter 2, and that's where you meet Hester Prynne, or Hester Prynne. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I really don't care. Her name's Hester. It's the first time I've ever heard a woman called Hester. Actually, I don't think I've ever heard the name Hester before given to anyone until I read this book. But anyway, she's been accused of adultery. Apparently, she spent time in jail. They imprisoned her for being an adulteress, and the novel starts where she's getting out of jail. And as she's getting out of jail, they have her stand on this platform, and she has to stand up there for 3 hours in front of the public. And the public's yelling at her and telling her she's a bad person and how she needs to repent of her sins. And the ministers that are there, they actually ask Hester, and they try and tell her, you got an opinion? They try and tell her to, tell us who are you in an adulterous relationship with, so we can figure out who this guy is, and we can, cleanse his soul of the evil he's committed. Very Puritanesque language going on in there. It's like a very, very legalistic culture. You do anything wrong, people are going to tell on you. Unless you're doing exactly the way other people want, you to behave, then you're kind of like the weirdo. Very different than today. But I can appreciate that. They're very rule driven. They want things to work a certain way. They want people to live a certain way. Fine. All right. So this woman gets caught in adultery, which they don't like. And they're trying to make her give up her husband. But she says, no, I'm not going to do that. She's very strong-willed in that. Very defiant, which I like about her. That's very endearing quality. That you're not going to give in to the pressures of other people. You're going to stand up for yourself and be your own woman. All right? So very good. Very good. Very endearing character. Somebody who I can, pull for in this book, so to speak. So the first half of the book, I guess I would just say that it talks about Hester and how she's living her life separate from the rest of the colony, the rest of the people in Boston, but at the same time, she's very much an integral part of their community. I mean, here she's going around helping the homeless, people that are wayward or ill or sick. She's actually helping them. She's nursing them and trying to get them back to full recovery. And yet the church people, those people that are supposed to be the moral center and moral compass, they're not giving her any credit. It's not until I wrote down chapter 13, where we start seeing the tide turn for Hester a little bit, where the people are a little bit kinder, where they are seeing that the letter A isn't necessarily meaning what it first meant. At first it meant adultery, but now it means able, that she is able to accomplish things, that she's a strong woman in their society and in their community. They're very accepting of her for the most part. Okay, so the book takes a 180 for Hester, And the whole reason for that is because she stood up and owned the fact that, yeah, she did something maybe she shouldn't have. Let's get on with life. And that's what she did, and eventually the rest of the community does too. And they start to support her a little bit in that. On the flip side, the guy who never came forward, the father, he is just a wretch inside. He is feeling despair. He hates himself because of the fact that he never stepped forward to say, yeah, this is me, I did this. And what makes matters worse, it turns out this guy is actually a reverend. He's a preacher in the community. So he's living kind of like a double life. On the outside, he's supposed to be this pure of heart, godly man. But on the inside, he's carrying around this deep-seated guilt, and it's literally killing him. He's making himself sick. All right? The great thing is, towards the end of the book, never mind, I'm not going to give the ending away. Read the book. All right? It has a very nice ending to it. There are some surprises in here, some little twists and turns. It is difficult to read, but it's psychological. I mean, you're going to learn a little bit about forgiveness and grace. You're going to learn a little bit about guilt, and it explores the human nature of people pointing out, what the other person did, not necessarily looking at what they themselves have done in their own lives. So, good book. Loved it. Will I read it again? Maybe. Am I going to read another Hawthorne book? Probably not, But who knows? Maybe one day. All right.